I thought we'd try to do is sort of look at a large picture, sort of see how it applied here at Washington University, and then I've included many more technical slides because I know that people will be able to access this and take it back to their engineers. So anyway, I probably won't spend a whole lot of time on those technical slides, but as Corinne said, feel free to voice any questions, and I'll be happy to sort of stop and answer them as they're relevant to the particular subject that we have up on the board. So let's start. This is the obligatory slide that everybody has to put up about their school. Certainly, this is the minimum amount of bragging one could do about a university, your own university, but I would say the same thing for ours. There's much more we could have up there we don't. So let's start. So where were you on April 28th, 2012? This is important, right? I was at the ACUDA board dinner in Indianapolis, Indiana, when at 6:02 p.m. actually Central Time, NOAA issued a tornado warning for St. Louis County, and then again at 6:15. This was the first time our umbrella system, which we call WUSTL alerts, went off, period. So not only did it go off, but it went off without any human intervention by Washington University personnel. Beacons, which we'll talk about all these different methods, but Alertus beacons went off, Alertus desktop pop-ups popped up, cable TV and public address system overrides happened in buildings across campus. The RSS feed to our emergency website went out so that if folks went to our website, they could see what the situation was. It set off the script to email and text messages to our entire campus community. In addition, St. Louis County, which controls our outdoor sirens for weather events, set off their sirens, which included R3. It was actually pretty cool, as the texter here said, too cool. This young man was in the engineering lab, and he noticed that these desktop pop-ups took over all of this monitors in the computer lab. Took a picture, sent out to Twitter land, which again we thought was a pretty positive affirmation that our messages was getting out and people were noticing. All right, so I wanted to just talk about a quick background, the growth of emergency communications, or just communications here at Washington University. Like many of you, we started with cable TV in the late 90s, and then in the 2000s, we actually moved to Falls Earth, which then partnered with Campus Televideo, and this is a theme I'll continue to sort of harp on throughout the presentation. The key thing for us here is that both Falls Earth and now Campus and Campus Televideo are, well, under the guise of Campus Televideo, is an ACUDA partner, and that's what's played a key role in all this, and we'll continue to talk about that. Is that many of our vendors are ACUDA partners, and so there was a very natural way for me to communicate with these different groups to help build the umbrella system that would fit our needs. So anyway, interestingly, in 2007, in February, former ACUDA president and now retired Washington University employee Bill Orrick led the charge to purchase ClearText in February that year, which was before Virginia Tech happened in April. Bill was going to buy it as a way to sort of do different types of mass communications, and it fit right in. Again, as the shooting started happening, it became clear that was a method we wanted to use. About a year or so later, the decision was made that ClearText, at that point, I think they actually sold out to Rave, didn't do what we needed to do, and so we went through an RFP process and we purchased Everbridge, which is again our vendor we use for the email text messages. In 2009, the Wayland sirens were installed, and then in 2010, and I put this up there because at the ACUDA Winter Seminar, Blake Robertson, Alertus Chief Technical Officer and co-founder, he and I were having a conversation. We were actually walking down toward walking down through the French Quarter, and this is almost a direct quote. I told him, I said, the holy grail for us is a software dashboard to bring all emergency communication technologies under one roof. At the time, and I think fairly true still, there just wasn't anything out there that could bring it all together. The whole concept of CAP, common alerting protocols, was just coming around. So there was just no standards that people could come together under. About a year or so later, we put out an RFP because Alertus, in particular, had Blake had sort of convinced us that yeah, he thought we could put together these disparate technologies through Alertus's dashboard, and make it work efficiently. So we went through the process. We got them up and running. About a year later, we actually tied the RSS feed from Alertus into our emergency website. And then in 2013, we started to connect to buildings with the mass notification, which is fire alarm systems with voice capabilities. And then this year, we're finalizing the RSS feed to our Four Winds digital signage. Excuse me. So we actually instituted Four Winds as a digital signage product about 3 years ago, and we've now gotten enough inertia with groups across campus using it, so that it now makes sense to sort of be able to push that out as another means of communication during an emergency. So this is sort of a slide showing our current system. We start in the upper left. We talked about the 3 outdoor sirens on main campus. Moving clockwise, we have our emergency website, which I have to say we just switched over this week to our new version of the emergency website. So if you went to emergency.wustl.edu, you would not see that page. You'd see a variation on it. The great folks at Public Affairs that helped the emergency management team to come up with a more modern, I guess, look and feel. Next, we have beacons, Alertus beacons. That number's closer to 80, and we continue to grow. Continuing on, that's a sample of the Alertus desktop pop-up that we had seen in the Twitter feed from before. We've got over 9,000 of these desktop pop-ups installed across campus, and we've worked with the department and school technology folks so that as new builds are made for computers, as they buy new ones, the build itself, the software build, includes the Alertus desktop pop-up. So that number will continue to grow to where all of our staff and faculty, computers, desktops, etc., laptops will have the desktop pop-up. We still use Everbridge. We just upgraded to their mass notification from their earlier version. And again, we remain steady at about 29,000 accounts that could be invoked if we sent out a message to everyone. Down at the very bottom, at the 6 o'clock on the clock, we're up to 6 buildings that have indoor PA systems that we can, again, just basically it's a contact closure override, and we'll talk about the specifics of that. And then we talked about our cable TV plant, so that we have the alert that can pop up and override our cable TV plant. That's important because we house close to 4,000 of our students, and they have access to the cable TV plant. We're trying to find more methods to be able to alert students in the dorms in the event, especially of a tornado. As many of you know, St. Louis is a tornado alley central kind of place. We have a lot of those. All right, so this is as it says, MATS, Washington University Emergency Communications Alerting Matrix. This is my sort of view of the world, and it's important that when people, especially technical people, start talking about emergency communication. I learned this from my Army days, right? You've got to have executive authorization. You've got to have buy-in from the highest level. So we do. We have a memorandum of understanding from the chancellor to the crisis management team, who basically gives the CMT overall operational responsibility to handle incidents on campus. And the way I like to phrase it is sort of, if it's a blustery snowstorm, a wintry blizzard, the CMT is certainly responsible to make sure, doing their best to clear sidewalks and make sure all the right people are in place But when it comes to canceling class, that's a decision that the executive leadership team has to make. So the crisis management team might recommend to them, hey, we recommend closing campus. It's not a call that they would make. But purely from an operational situation, the crisis management team has the full authority to handle the situation. And then we responsibility, and then we talk about the authority. So the authority for and for my purposes for being able to send out an emergency message rests within the incident assessment team, which covers the folks at operations, the Washington University Police Department, the medical school protective services, public affairs, emergency health and safety, the emergency management group, and I'm blanking out on what ATC is. I apologize. So there's like seven or eight folks that have that authority to be able to initiate a message at any time. They don't need to ask permission. They don't need to talk to each other, and that primarily because we realize that outside of weather emergencies, the biggest save lives now emergency is going to be a shooting. And so that's going to percolate up either through the medical school protective services or through Washington University Police Department. So we give that operational authority to those individual leaders so that they can then pass that down and put it in their protocol. So shooter on campus, maybe it's step 3 in the protocol, that the sergeant or the officer in charge verify step 1, step 2. All right, step 3, have the dispatcher send out the alert. Step 4, whatever that normal process would be. So from here, for the next few lines down, everything sort of flows from the left to right. So for incident timeline, we sort of have an incident happens, then the crisis management team takes control of it, and then it gets handled until the incident ends, quote unquote. And I sort of have listed them as three types of incidents. One is a Higher Education Opportunity Act defined Save Lives Now incident. Right? And if you look right below it, that's a quote from HEOA that shows anything that's an immediate threat to the health and safety of students or staff, you have to have a plan. It's got to be pre-approved. It's got to be out there. And if that situation happens, you have to follow your plan. If not, that's where some of the federal statutes come involved, where you could, your university could be in a lot of problems. We've all read about those or heard about those over the last few years. So a Save Lives Now situation happens, and eventually it will slide over, or the incident could just start as an emergency, and I would define that as a hazardous materials spill, fire, etc. Something that we don't have to get a message out as quickly as possible in order to save lives in the immediacy, but something that maybe it can take 15, 20, 30 minutes for people to discuss and what's the best way to handle this, and then send that message. That's an emergency message. And then following over to the right, follow on or an informational situation. So a couple years ago we had a meningitis episode, and it turned out to be the meningitis that was not people couldn't catch. So I think that's bacterial. No, anyway, and so we spent the crisis management team got together and spent a bit of time figuring out what the response was and how we were going to communicate, etc. All right, so that's an informational. It's not a full-born emergency, and certainly wasn't a Save Lives Now situation. I list on there also because we have the possibility of being earthquake central here. Clearly, the technology is not out there to be able to warn people of earthquake, but if an earthquake happened, we'd be in a situation where we'd be pushing out information as quickly as possible. All right, so that's incident examples. So then if you go down again, the alert authorization, right? So in HEOA, Save Lives Now situation, that's, as we said, pre-approved per Washington University Police Department and medical school protocols. So that's set up. Or if it's a tornado, again, if NOAA issues the alert, then that's been pre-approved, that can then go out. And then you sort of slide over. Under an emergency situation, that authorized date, the incident assessment team would be the ones. Once you get to the informational side, it's really in the realm of the public affairs, the digital content management group, and they're authorized to be able to use the tools that we have under our dashboard, although odds are they would not use the outdoor sirens or the desktop pop-ups, but those tools are available if they wanted to use them for their follow-on informational messages. And again, the crisis management team would be involved with that process. As you see down below, the responsibility to send the alert under the Save Lives Now, it's going to be that dispatcher. Under the emergency, it's the WPD and Protective Services officers or management. And then there's a couple of us, Mark Bagby, who's our emergency management director, and then myself, who have certainly access, administrative access, and are the capability of sending out messages. And then we move over to the follow-on informational piece. Again, the digital content management folks in public affairs, and then if we needed to use the Alertus level 2 stuff, that would be Mark or I. Interestingly, one of the things that we talked about that the leadership came up with was that in a Save Lives Now, we're going to just send out all available, right, modes of communication. But the key part is that they decided that they really wanted to use that all available on the affected campus. So on all the other campuses, we're going to do information. We're going to inform the others, which would be email, desktop pop-ups in particular. So we want them to know that if there's an incident, there's a shooter on the main campus, that the other campuses know about it and are warned so that they're on their way over, that they get the message. But we didn't want to use every means possible at those other, because our campuses could be miles apart from each other. This could be something that affects the South Campus, which is over a mile away from any of the other campuses. So the point was, on the campus where the emergency is happening, fully informed with everything we got, and then the other campuses just send out through those very specific methods. And then the follow-on information is really as required by the situation. All right, anyway, this is sort of my view of the world. You're welcome to use that and sort of think about that in your world as well. Here's a copy of our newest our emergency website. As you see, that big arrow is pointing to, if you went to emergency.wustel.edu right now, you'd see that no emergency sign right there. That's where the RSS feed would go, though. So if an RSS feed came in, it would turn red and would have a copy of the message. Again, everything that we do pushes people to this website. We think it's important that we have one source of information, and we tell people, if there's something going on, we're going to tell you about it for sure at the emergency website. All right, one of the things that we sort of had to realize from a technical perspective is, if we're going to put stuff on our website, we're going to drive people there, it's going to get a lot of hits. So if you see on the right, far right, we have a server that is fed that actually feeds 2 cache servers that then get crossed over through 2 load balancers that come through the campus firewall, and that's what a site visitor has to go through. And what we've done is we work with our back-end technical folks to make sure that those load balancers and those cache servers can handle. I think we got as high as like maybe 3,000 visitors per second, something like that, some obscenely high number, so that in every situation that we could sort of come up with, that was pretty good numbers. I mean, it wasn't 30,000 per second or something, but it was up to the numbers that we felt like we should be able to handle. But if you don't think about this and you don't test it, you're not going to find out what your website's capable of until a problem happens. All right. So the other thing is, what happens if we have a situation where we lose our default name servers and/or our web server that houses our emergency website? Well, we've set up an agreement with the Indiana University Global NOC over in Indianapolis. So we have an IP address that, if you were to type that IP address in, it would bring up this website right here. We have an agreement with them, so that they're monitoring us. They're monitoring our DNS servers as well as our website. And we have an agreement that if they lose full contact with us and there's a corresponding CNN event, i.e. an earthquake, if they can't reach us within 15 minutes, they have the authority to go to our backup DNS site and route all web traffic into this website. Our main goal here was to make sure that as quickly as possible, people from the outside could get information. We could communicate. And then we're set up so that our digital content management folks have the password and log in to this site so they can go in and update it, or we can call I use Global Knock, and it's a simple flat file, HTML file, so they can put in the information. So we can have some place that people can get to see what's going on. All right, so basically system overview, again, left to right, we can do manual activation, or it's NOAA's automatic activation through the Alertus. As you can see, we use personal contacts through text, emails, phones, outdoor, social media, and then indoor. And we've pretty much covered all those systems. But we like this slide. It's actually a pretty good slide that gives people a quick look. If you're going to do a manual activation, like the dispatcher, they would log in, and they would. This is really all they would see. They'd see the preset alert. They'd click the drop box, and they can pick one of those 7 screens. That's it. And I have to apologize because I think actually the threat to safety has actually been updated to actually shooter on campus. But either way, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 campuses that are threat to safety. There's 2 tornado warning in case we have to send those manually, and then there's an all clear. That's it, right? There's nothing. They just click on that and they hit go, and then they can get back to what they're doing. So we want to make it as simple and easy as possible for the dispatchers. Our hope is if there was a threat to safety or a shooter on one of our campuses, that the officer in charge or the sergeant who has that next level up access to Alertus would go in and get one of our templates that has fill-ins so that they would say shooters on blank campus or in such and such building. Our hope is that even if we had to send out this preset alert, that somebody, the goal is that someone would follow up within 15 minutes with more specific information. Not just that the shooter is on the medical school campus, but the shooter is in this building, on this floor. The goal would be have that message be the one that goes out, but we had to be in a situation where if things were just happening so fast that sergeant or that commander didn't have time to do the template, we could at least get that message out right away, if that makes sense. The NOAA, it's really using the CAP alerting, the custom alerting protocol. If NOAA issues an alert and it matches the custom event rule that we've set up, it then goes through Alertus and sends out the appropriate messages. Preset, everything's set up ahead of time. Here's a copy sort of the custom event trigger that we set up. And again, I'm not going to go into this too deeply. We work very closely with Alertus. In fact, we've just been testing out. They're moving to now that NOAA sends out like a circle, right? You can say, hey, if NOAA sends out an alert and their circle covers over our map circle, like 10-mile radius from a particular point, as opposed to just the entire county. So we're trying to get better to where if there's a tornado in the far northern part of the county, most of us that are in the middle or the south, we don't necessarily get that alert. But since we're not meteorologists, it's sort of we'd rather err on the side of too much information and not enough. So but anyway, my point is Alertus is on top of this stuff and working with us very closely. Again, this is an Alertus, Blake's slide. He'd be better at explaining this, but we can either go through like we do with Everbridge, where we use the APIs provided by the vendor to get that tight integration, or we use the Common Alert Protocol, which is again what we use for the NOAA alerts, and then the RSSPs as we talked about. So we sort of have 3 integration methods to automate as much as possible. And this just sort of shows about the implementation with Everbridge using the Everbridge API. And as far as the note, we have actually switched over to mass notification as of yesterday. We still have our Everbridge Aware running, but now Alertus is pointing to the mass notification product, and we tested, everything seemed to work really well. So. Yes.
This is Michelle. We've got a question. Is the Alertus the name of Everbridge's product or a separate product from Everbridge?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So Alertus is the company that we use that provides the interface as well as the beacons and the desktop pop-ups. Everbridge is a company that provides, you send them a message and they send it back to you in text, voice, and email. So as I said, we have outdoor Wayland sirens. We've got Everbridge for the personal notifications. We've got our cable TV plant. We've got all those different methodologies that have all different companies. But Alertus is the company that provides that umbrella that everything gets tied through. So Alertus is the actual company that we use to contact these other products so that one message gets out in a uniform manner. Everbridge is just one of those products. Does that make sense? Hopefully. And again, sort of voice generation methods, live voice, pre-recorded, or text-to-speech. What we tend to do is we worked with Alertus for text-to-speech. So when we're sending out a message via Alertus to the sirens, we had Alertus. We sent them, I think, gosh, I don't know, a couple hundred proper names of buildings, etc., with pronunciations, and so they were able to code that in such a way so that when the sirens, if the sirens were to say there's a problem in Beaumont or in pick your building, they'll get the building name right, and it won't come out sounding all goofy because the standard text-to-speech algorithm doesn't understand how to say Beaumont or Brookings or whatever. All right, so when Alertus works with the big siren we just talked about, we have their text-to-speech module that it goes from Alertus to their text-to-speech module. It ties into the siren controller, and for the basic siren science, we have the controller is over at our West Campus building in our data center. It's got two antennas. One antenna is on listen-only mode from the county, and if the county were to send out a message, it would come down, go through the controller, and come out through our other antenna, which is basically pushing the message out to our three sirens, which have antennas on their side as well, so they can communicate each other via UHF, and it's a licensed frequencies. So we don't have a problem where someone could accidentally trigger the system. As you can see, we worked with Alertus pretty well to make sure that they could produce text-to-speech messages that could be understood in our sirens. That was kind of a make or break situation, and they passed really well. And again, sort of a couple of hints: keep the message under 4 minutes to prevent overheating the sirens. But I will tell you, if your messages are more than 30 seconds long, it's sort of, the text, the speech itself is sort of a waste. But at least people will hear that there's something going on because they'll hear the siren ahead of time and then after, hopefully. All right, so we talk about NFPA 72, which is upgrading fire alarm systems so they can be used for mass notification. That's a big thing. Talk to your fire safety folks. If you have buildings that have moved to that, really, it's important. We've now moved to this as a standard, and our hopes is that in the dorms, especially the residence halls, that we get upgraded to that, so that upgraded to this fire alarm with PA systems, so that at 8:30 on a Sunday morning, at least we have a shot at letting the kids know, hey, there's a tornado coming, or there's something, because as you know, most of your college students in the dorms are probably sleeping soundly at 8:30 on a Sunday or Saturday morning. So. This is important stuff. Again, I'm not the expert on this, but we have a lot of folks here at Washington University that have worked hard to incorporate all this. So we have our facilities folks, we've got our emergency command center, etc. So this talks about the indoor fire alarm or the PA system. It's the same basic concept. Alertus goes to an Alertus text-to-speech module that just has a contact closure into an amplifier so that you can use the PA system just as normal, but if Alertus sends a message, it basically overrides that system so that our message goes out and interrupts anything else that's going on. I will mention, I'm going to go back up one screen, I will mention that NFPA allows us so that we have set it up so that our voice messages take priority over fire alarm. Which means if there's a fire alarm going on, or if we are sending out a voice message about a tornado or a shooter, and somebody pulls the fire alarm noise will not happen until our voice message is complete. I think that was important, right? We didn't want people, we didn't want a tornado warning telling people go to the basement of the building, and then have somebody pull a fire alarm, which tells people what, get out of the building. So we thought that was pretty important. Anyway, we use this, we test it out. It works really well in the buildings that have PA speakers. And of course, your amplifier, you've got to adjust things for that building because not all speakers are built the same. Okay, desktop pop-ups. This is again a client that Alertus gives you when you get their product, and it's a small little daemon. It's only got a 2K payload. Excuse me. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling. So it's a little daemon. It's a little piece of software that you load onto your desktop, and then what happens is every 90 seconds or so, it sends out a 2K message, under 2K message, back to the server and says, hey, is there any problems, any emergency messages? And if there isn't, nothing. It's cool. But if there is, it takes that message and then it pops it up onto your screen in the format that you've set up. Which means, of course, not every pop-up in your building or in your office will go off at the very same moment. It'll go off within a 60 to 90 second time frame throughout the building. Each one's on a little bit different schedule. But this really works well on both Macs and Windows computers. At this point, I don't believe it works with Linux machines.
Matt,
Cable TV, yeah.
We got another question.
Perfect.
Does WUSTL have any problems in getting students to provide authorizations to send text to their cell phones for emergency notification?
Sure, that's a good question. We are an opt-out situation, so we have everybody who has an @WUSTL email address, which is our aliasing email. Everybody gets pushed into our system into our emergency alerting system, unless they go to either the student information system or the HR system and tell it I'm opting out. Now, right now, it's a blanket opt-out. So we have I think maybe right around 1% of the population that opts out. Otherwise, you're automatically in. What we are moving to this fall is a situation where for university provided communication methods, i.e. your email address, if you have a university provided cell phone, your university telephone number, if you're staff or faculty, those you're not allowed to opt out of. But you can opt out of your personal cell phone, your alternative cell phone. So if you're a student, yes, you could opt out of having it text you on your cell phone. We just don't have that many. We do a test of the system twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring, and inevitably we'll get a few people that'll be like that'll reply back saying I don't want to get these, and then in conversations with them they'll either say yeah, you're right, it's probably a good idea, or we'll help them show them how to opt out. But it's very few. Like I said, it's under 1%. All right, so back to cable.
A couple more questions if you want to take them.
I'd love to.
Which product is the desktop pop-up part of, Alertus or Everbridge?
Right, So Everbridge only does the text and email. Alertus provides the beacons, which we'll see in a little bit. Alertus provides the cable TV override solution, and Alertus provides the desktop pop-ups. And again, I'm just the key thing here. It's again a contact closure. It just goes in and overrides. That's a picture of our head end. It overrides our entire system, whether they're using HD channels or local channels or SD. Anything that gets pumped through our system that gets overridden. We limit the signal to only 3 minutes, regardless of how long the emergency is set up for, the alert set up for. Because if it's a tornado, we're trying to tell people, hey, turn to channel, your local channel to see what the current situation is. And they can't do that if they can't change the station. All right. So here's what I would say. a summary of secrets to a single dashboard, right? And it's right here. I think the things to think about are down near the bottom, right? For beacons, desktop alerts, emergency website, figure out how long your message is going to go for. Figure out what those different modalities. You know, we talked about sirens, the PA system, and cable TV only being for 3 minutes, because all we want to do with those is alert people that something's going on. It's the other methods of communication that we want to make sure people get the bigger message. The biggest thing for us is we have many modes of communicating. It's not just one, it's not just two, but it's, you know, if you really count them up, you see there's like 10 or 12. The ability to find policies or profiles, that's key, right? And Alertus was able to give us that. Was able to allow us to set up different profiles, different policies, so that if A happens, B is what the result is. If C happens, then D is the result. We talked about this, sort of the Save Lives Now emergency with built-in protocols. Nothing here that you haven't heard already. This is sort of the obligatory. Hey, you know, we think we're doing a pretty good job. We've won a few national awards, one through SASHIMA, the Campus Safety, Health, and Environmental Management Association, and then, of course, the Institutional Excellence Award from ACUDA. The other key thing I always try to tell people is that, you know, we have over 85 people, different WUSTL personnel, that have been involved with installation and continuing ongoing maintenance of the system, from the disaster prep committee to CMT, all those folks, including IS&T, which is our information services technology, and our medical school IT folks. It's important that this is one of those projects that bridge the gap, that cuts across silos all over campus, and you've got to be able to have project leaders that can cut through that, can cut through into those silos and get the right people working on it. Clearly, it helps when the crisis management team, which has operational authority from the chancellors and the executive leadership team, is leading, you know, sort of provides the backdrop for this. But nonetheless, from a technical perspective, it's been a very sort of ongoing process that we continue to test. We continue to add new things. You know, we're never satisfied. We're always looking for what's the next best technology. One thing I didn't talk about much is the ability to go out through social media. That's another avenue that we're working with our public affairs folks to make sure that we can tap into that adequately. And then again, I just come back to this. You know, ACUDA's involvement has been invaluable to us. All these partnerships, Alertus, Campus Televideo, RAVE, which we used at one time as well. These folks are having those relationships ahead of time with Blake or you know, JR from Campus Televideo or whomever, has been the cornerstone of us being able to move forward with this project in a timely manner. The other part is networking, like I said, with fellow professionals from ACUDA. And I mentioned some of the folks here, and I will especially mention Walt and Cindy from Northern Illinois. That shooting took place on Valentine's Day that year, and in May, early May, it was 2008, something like that. I was going to be up in that area, and they graciously let me come in and talk to not only the two of them, but also their staff to get a better feel from an IT perspective, from a communication perspective, what did they go through? What are the things that they happen that we need to think about? And in fact, Walt even came down to one of our crisis management, disaster prep, committee team meetings, and did a presentation. So it was fabulous. And again, I can't say enough about the work and the feedback that people like Walt and Michael have always been able to give us. So again, it's a combination of ACUDA vendor partners, ACUDA professionals, ICT professionals in campuses. It's been fabulous, and I cannot encourage you enough to reach out to those same folks throughout, you know, that you've come to know, and myself as well. Feel free to contact me if you want more specific information. As I say down here, opportunities to see what others in higher education are doing so that we are judged as doing what reasonable people in our situation would be doing. That's another key thing, right? All the regulations all say the same thing. If what you are doing for an emergency or for an incident can be judged as what somebody in a reasonable people in your situation would do other locations, then you're good. And that's sort of the backdrop against which we always sort of think of things. This is a pretty cool, and this might answer that earlier question you had given me, Michelle. This is a pretty cool graphic that actually the Alertus folks have come up with that shows Alertus as our center, our key, and through it we speak to digital signage, voice alarm, fire alarm voice, indoor speakers, Everbridge, desktop pop-ups, alerts, beacons, cable TV overrides, and outdoor sirens. So we talked to them all through the Alertus dashboard. I probably should have put that slide earlier. Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left, maybe a little bit more. I can certainly ramble on about other things, but I did want to leave time for a real question and answer time period. Feel free to. Yeah.
Okay, so one going back to the messages to desktops. Can emergency messages to desktops be targeted based on location?
Interestingly, Michelle, yes, they can. We have chosen not to do that. What we have chosen is, well, let me step back. It can be done. The way we do it is, I actually created 6 configuration files. So I've given the folks that are on the medical school campus the configuration file that tells me medical school and then the other naming conventions for each individual. So I can look in Alertus and I can see that of the 9,000 desktop pop-ups, 4,000 or 5,000 of them have that configuration for the medical school. I can't track them via IP address or along those lines. So I'm just using this convention to say, okay, these people are in the medical school. So there's ways that I could manipulate that, but it would be very top heavy and involved. And so what we have decided was that desktop pop-ups are a great method to inform. So regardless of whether it's an event happening on a particular campus, and we're trying to use every method possible, or whether we're just trying to inform the other 5 campuses, we wanted to make sure desktop pop-ups were one of those key methods. So yes and no, I guess, is really the answer. And what was the other question, Michelle?
Okay. Has WashU considered a mobile app as an alert destination, whether it's a standalone mobile app or integrated into a campus mobile app?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we are working with Alertus because what we want is we don't want a separate app. So WUSTL has a thing called WUSTL app that we've combined. What was previously 6 or 7 completely different apps, like on the where's the bus pickup, the bus circulator, where's it at right now? What's on the menu today? There's 5 or 6 of them, and they've combined them all into one WUSTL app. So what we're working with Alertus for is to provide the code, so we can take the Alertus, what will become the Alertus mobile app, and tie that into our current WUSTL app. So there's not a separate app that people have to download, but it'll just be a part of the one that they download for all the other WUSTL stuff, if that makes sense.
Okay. Next question. How do you decide whether a building gets a beacon versus overhead paging system versus audible fire alarms?
Oh, excellent. So when we got the beacon, our first sort of goal was to figure out where would they have the biggest bang for the buck. So we thought about the largest gathering spaces, the largest classrooms, and those are the places we started with. Of course, in the interim, that's where the fire alarm with voice capabilities have come along. And then it was just this year that our facilities group has gone to that as a standard. So all new building and all reconstruction, refurbished in buildings will have that fire alarm with voice capability. So as those come online, clearly that's going to be our primary method. The beacons have truly, and in fact, we're expanding. We're probably going to double the number of beacons in the next year or so as we push them out to more classrooms. The beacons are really that interim methodology that holds us over in places where we don't have the fire alarm with override. Now, buildings that have PA systems, like our student center has a PA system. Well, we still have a couple of beacons in that building as well. Certainly, you got to have a beacon with a text to speech to do the either the fire alarm or the PA system override. So that's part of the process. So you're gonna have the beacon there anyway. So we in those buildings like the library, the main library, again, we have text to speech override for their PA system, but we have 3 beacons in that building. So it's really a matter of the type of building, what kind of how many people are going to be there at any one particular time, because we don't want to. I'm less reliant upon PA systems that could be off the shelf from some cheap electronics store or some box store, or it could be a really, really good system. Whereas the fire alarm systems we know are NFPA licensed. They have regulations, so they have to be really good, and we can depend that they will work.
And here's a follow-up to that. Are the beacon IP devices, and if so, are they wireless or wired devices?
We have them wired. They're a power over Ethernet. So we have PoE, plug them in, and have them. We actually have a separate VLAN for the emergency notification system devices. So any device that is on the network that is involved with emergency communication, they put it on a separate VLAN, which sort of isolates that traffic from the rest of the traffic on campus, so that a little bit more dependability. We're not going to be held hostage if some students, in the dorm and whatever reason something goes haywire and he or she is using up all the bandwidth. This sort of helps protect us against that. Any more questions?
Yeah, we got a couple more. Clarification on the beacons. Is that what converts text to speech?
Yeah. So let me. Don't get sick. I'm gonna flip. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna flip back through here, and I'll show you a picture of the beacon. It was back here, right here. So you can see the beacon up here in the upper right-hand corner. That's and that, by the way, the beacons are they qualify for since they have text and light and sound. We try to put them at wheelchair level in many locations, so that if someone is confined to a wheelchair, they can see, they can read that, or if they're deaf, they can at least see the lights and again read it. So it has disability, and I apologize, whatever the proper phrase is that says that fits that qualification as well. You see those 2 dark spots in the bottom right-hand corner of the alert beacon. That's such that if you push those 2 at the same time when the alert goes off, the initial loud noise alerting sound will go away, but the lights and the text will still continue to scroll to tell you what the message is. That device is what you plug into right here, this text-to-speech module. So with that big circle that says Alertus, that's where the beacon would go. The beacon would plug into the text-to-speech module, and then the text-to-speech module is what plugs into either the siren controller or the PA or a fire alarm system. So it's a beacon, and then if you want to provide text-to-speech to one of those audible devices, PA or fire alarm or the other, you could do that with a text-to-speech module. But you do not need a text-to-speech module for just standalone beacons. I think that should answer that question, Michelle.
Okay. We do have one going back to mobile apps. Does the mobile app need to be running for an alert to show on the device?
I haven't gotten quite that far with them yet. I don't know how the mobile apps work. My understanding, though, Well, I really can't. I really can't. It's a great question. I don't know whether or not something would trigger it where it would automatically launch the app in your phone and or your tablet and bring it up or not. But that's a great question that I'll I'll make sure I discuss with the good folks at Alertus. And if it's not, maybe that's something we need to ask them to build into their next revision or their. Again, this is new. This is new to all of us. The whole app thing. I know they're building an app, but again, they're a great Akuta partner, vendor partner, and they're willing to talk to us when we say, well, we don't want the app, we just want the code so we can tie it into our current app. And they're very cooperative. Back to you, Michelle.
Well, there is one more about the Alertus system. Is the pricing based upon licensing?
You'd have to talk to them, but what we do is the pricing is based. I think it's based upon, and it's been a couple 3 years, but I think it's a combination of the licensing for the server software and/or the desktop pop-ups, and then you pay for the hardware, right? So every beacon I get costs me X amount of money. Every text-to-speech module I get costs me X amount of money. The licensing for the server software, the desktop pop-ups is I recall is really very generous. So we're not penalized heavily because we have 9,000 desktop pop-ups versus 3,000. What Alertus is really good about, I think, is recognizing that universities they want to encourage good behavior. They want to get you to use it more, not less, because you have to pay more for desktop pop-ups or something. Same thing when we worked out our situation for the cable TV. They had a little different model than the one we were looking for, and they worked with us, and it worked out great. And then there's a percentage for maintenance that you pay. So we have an annual fee that we pay for maintenance on the hardware as well as the licensing. But again, that comes back to, that pays off it just pays off big time. So like yesterday when we were doing this transition over from Everbridge Aware to Everbridge Mass Notification, we had to make some adjustments inside of our Alertus server and our policies and et cetera. At the same time, though, they just come out with their latest server software revision. So because we have the high level, whatever that level of maintenance agreement with them, Gary from Alertus, helped me. We walked through the process. We did the upgrade on the software. We made sure that the code was changed inside so that if an alert went off today, that would go through mass notification instead of Aware. And we tested it, and all was great. And it took a couple hours, and we were here till past 5:30 Central Time, and Alertus is based in Baltimore. So Gary was here till 6:30. Well past what I would consider the normal break time. But they're they're a great company to work with. As I have found in my 12 plus years or whatever with Akuta, most if not all of our vendor partners are like that, are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that you, especially when it comes to life safety, for goodness sakes.